January meeting. And we will start off, Mr. Godwin, if you'll lead us in the pledge and invocation. I thought you were going to ask him to. Yeah. Actually, yeah, Samuel, if you'll lead us in the pledge, and then Mr. Godwin, if you've got the invocation. Oh, good, okay.
I pledge an allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You would remain standing while we do prayer. Dear Lord, bless all teachers and parents mightily as they seek to teach and enrich and guide your precious children. Grant them abundant resources to do the job, intelligence, wisdom, sensitivity, kindness, and the materials that they need to make possible for these things today. Lord, wrap your young, loving arms around these teachers and parents who give so much of themselves to grow our youth into creative, responsible adults. We pray that you will immerse them in your boundless, transcendent love. We pray that you will strengthen and soothe them when they have given so much of themselves that they need your extra attention, your extra care. We love, respect, and admire these teachers and parents and educators, and pray that you will watch over them always, these special people who hold our children and our future in their hands. And may we have a great year coming up, 2020. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jake. All right. First item, proclamation for School Board Appreciation Month. Mr. Palin.
Yes, sir. We'd like to have a proclamation to thank the school board for all the hard work you put in and all that you do. So I'll read that. Whereas each year January is declared as National School Board Appreciation Month, and whereas the men and women serving as members of school boards are dedicated to children, staff members, learning, and community, and devote many hours in service to our public schools as they continually strive for improvement, excellence, and progress in education. And whereas the members of the Carteret County Board of Education respond to the educational needs of the schools in this county, and in doing so, these leaders help strengthen our county's educational system and improve our children's futures. And whereas the members of the Carteret County Board of Education are appreciated for their willingness to serve in their roles. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim January 2020 as School Board Appreciation Month in Carteret County. Thank you for all y'all do.
Much. Yeah, thank you, every one of you. All right, we need to consider our meeting agenda. There's a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make that motion for the meeting agenda.
Motion by Melissa, second. Second by Brittany. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, first item is public comment. We do have one speaker, Samuel Beasley. And Mr. Whitford, if you would just go over the rules, and Samuel, come up to the podium.
Mr. Chairman, no speaker shall make obscene remarks or issue personal attacks or insults while addressing the board. Speakers shall not discuss any confidential information that they obtain from personnel files or student records. A complaint against an employee or student will not be aired during public comment, although this may be heard in closed session following consultation with the superintendent. And remarks shall end when the speaker's allotted time has expired.
And Samuel, we didn't think you would do any of those things, but it's just policy.
It's good to hear. It's good to hear.
That's right. So please.
So, as you know, my name is Samuel Beasley, and I'm a student at Mass Early College. And I just wanted to give a quick thank you for keeping our school open. And it's just, I've learned a lot, and I'm really thankful for all that the school has brought to me. And I was able to qualify for the Honor Society of the college.
Awesome.
And I'm learning a lot since we just started our spring semester. And I just want to say thank you so much for keeping our school open.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Samuel. Well done. All right. Received notice of February 4th, public comments on the 2020-2011 budget. And this is basically just notifying parents that we're inviting comments on our next year's budget on February 4th. We welcome your comments here at central office. Is there anything else on there, Tabby? It's more of just a notice.
The regular public comment will take place in February, but you are also asking people to speak specifically about their budget.
Perfect. All right, very good. Next item is the consent agenda. I assume everybody's had a chance to look over the items. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Clark,
Second.
second by Jake. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. The consent agenda is approved. And up next, consider finalizing contract with the North Carolina School Board Association for superintendent search. And we have Miss Allison Schaefer and Sam, can't remember your last name, Sam? Thorpe, Sam Thorpe here. So if you please come up to the podium.
Thank you. Nice to see all of you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's very exciting to be starting a new year, a new decade, actually. I'm Allison Schaefer. I'm the legal counsel and director of policy for the North Carolina School Boards Association. Part of my division of the School Boards Association assists school boards with their superintendent searches, school boards in North Carolina. And I think the board had indicated they had decided to use us, and I wanted to present a little bit about the superintendent search process. You do have folders, and Sam, if you want to get one from Tabby, I think. Sure. You do have folders in front of you that have the documents that we shared with the board that were needed to be approved in order to get started. Before we go through those documents, let me just make some preliminary comments about the superintendent search in general. Some of you have been through a search before, and some of you have not. And so I wanted to kind of get the new board members up to speed on generally the process. So it generally takes about 6 months to do a superintendent search. So you're starting now. You should hopefully have someone in place by the end of this school year. The last month is really just time for that person to give notice and to their current employer and move here. So it's really about a 5-month process plus a month for someone to move. We do have in your materials, if you'll start looking at the draft, the first is on the right-hand side is a letter that just says what we need to have approved. The second one is a timeline, which I kind of just wanted to go through for your public and for the board. So generally, as I said, it takes about 6 months. Tonight, we're looking at approving the initial documents and beginning advertising. We do recommend about 8 weeks of advertising. We find that less than that, you start to lose numbers of candidates. More than that, you don't really gain anything. So we're recommending that you have an application deadline of March 2nd, which is those 8 weeks. That should give you the candidates that you need. I was asked by some of the board members if we thought you'd have a good pool. This is a fabulous place to be, a fabulous place to live, fabulous school system. I think you will get good candidates, but we do want to make sure we cast a wide net. Our job as the School Boards Association is not to decide who you hire, not to recommend candidates, not to screen candidates for you. Our job is to help you have a very professional, objective, impartial process in which all board members get the same information at the same time, and to help you get good candidates and good information about those candidates, so you have all the information that you need to make a good decision. We are not the decision makers. By law, the board is the decision maker. Our general statutes say that the Board of Education is the sole entity that makes the decision about who your new superintendent would be. I neglected to introduce Sam Thorpe, who's with me. He's a staff attorney with my division, and he will be the one assisting me with that. So when you get emails about different things, a lot of times they'll come from Sam. I would just say, in terms of recruiting candidates, if the board is aware of any candidates it wishes to recruit, please pass those names on to me and we will make contact. The more that that information comes through us, the more objective it will be. If we don't encourage or we discourage candidates communicating directly with board members, because different board members are getting different conversations, and that's just not an appropriate way to have a good process. So if you have someone who comes to you and says, I'm interested in the position, please refer them to us and we will help them through the process. And what we do is we collect all the applications on the deadline, And then we come together, we pull all that information together. We do a background check on Google or, an internet search to get information that is an additional, that is public information, such as have they been superintendent of the year, or did they have issues in their prior employment, and we'll include that with the application. So it takes us a little while to get all the information together and send it to you. You will not know who has applied until you get the packets released to you. We have a process now, and I believe we had it last time we worked with you. It's an online process, so applicants will apply online. For those of you that want paper copies, we can certainly get you paper copies, and we can talk about that a little bit more. But again, it takes us a little while to get all that information together. We release the information to you, and you can access that at the same time, so that you don't know who's applied, and you're not, hopefully not getting people lobbying you for one person or the other. It is important, again, to remain objective till you get to the point where you see the applicants, and then you can assess their information. Then the board has a while to review those applications independently and come back together after you've had a chance to look at it. What we do recommend to you is that you look at the applications and decide who you want to interview. That's the most inclusive stage of the process, but come with your list of candidates of people that are interesting to you. We believe that the number of candidates that board should interview is between about 7 and 10. If you have less than 7, you probably don't feel like you have a whole lot of choice. More than 10, you feel overwhelmed if you're going to interview that many people. So again, that's a target, but some boards choose to interview more and sometimes a little bit less, so it's just up to you. But that's just a target we recommend. And I want to say this up front too. You're not going to get 300 applications. You're not even probably going to get 50. But we usually find that if we get 15 to 20, that's a good number, but it can be more, and we would expect you all would be in the higher range. It could be as high as 40. That's a lot to go through. So we prepare for you what we call our experience chart that kind of tells you, it pulls out the demographic information or where people are from and how many years they've been a superintendent, or if they're an assistant superintendent, how many years and where they're from. How big their school districts are, what their experience is, so you can have kind of a guide as you go through the applicants. Then after the board has had a chance to review that, you come together. We facilitate that meeting. It would just be the board, and if you want your board attorney involved, and us, and we will, it will be a closed session meeting from that point on, and that was when you will decide who you want to interview. And again, information about candidates is confidential under the law. It is actually a criminal misdemeanor to release information about candidates, so it's important that you guard very closely the information that you do receive about individual candidates. They have a right to confidentiality. If you have sitting superintendents in particular, they are very concerned often about information being shared publicly, so it's really important their confidentiality be respected. It's legally required, but it's also important in order to maintain candidates, because you will lose candidates if their names get out, because they have jobs currently and they don't want to lose those jobs because they're applying elsewhere. Just like if you were to apply somewhere else, you might not want your boss to know that you're applying elsewhere. So that's important as well. So we generally see about 7 to 10 applicants. A few weeks later, we will schedule those applicants for you to interview. We usually try to make it in a place where it's confidential who's coming in and out. And I know Tammy can help us with that information, where in your community would be a good place to have the interviews. But they're usually not on site, because you want to maintain the confidentiality again. After the end of the interviews, the board would choose to narrow it down. Usually about 3 is the number of finalists you have. At that point, we conduct a thorough background check for you. We get a criminal credit check on applicants. We get references for you, and we can talk about that process more as it goes along. One of the benefits that you have in using us is that we have every school board in the state is a member of our organization. So we have very good contacts to get good background information on candidates. We also are part of a national network called the National Affiliation of Superintendent Searchers. And I actually just finished a stint as chairman of that organization a few years ago. There are 36 states that have services like this, State School Boards Association, and we work together to help each other recruit candidates, and also to get good information. So I can call the people in Virginia or South Carolina and get information about candidates, and maybe even get some candidates from them. And one thing I forgot to mention was I'm also going to be recruiting at the American Association of School Administrators meeting in February. And again, we do recruiting. We don't tell you who we recruit because we don't want to we don't want to prejudice you in any way about the candidates. We want you to make up your own minds, but we do try to shake the trees and get good people. We also we're going in the end of this month to the Aspiring Superintendent's Program in North Carolina, and I'm speaking at the Aspiring Urban Superintendent's Program in DC in 2 weeks to try to talk to people. So it's good timing in terms of your advertising because we can take their information to those places and really reach out. So you'll interview folks after you get all the background information. You'll interview a second time, and usually 3 people, and then decide who you might want to make the offer to. At that point, it will be turned over to your board attorney, and usually together with your board chair, we'll negotiate a contract after being given some direction by the board about how much you want to pay, what kind of length of contract you want. Your board attorney's done that many times. He and I have both been doing this for a while. So that will be, we're not your attorneys, he's your attorney, and it will remain that way through this process. If you have legal advice, we will direct you to him or ask him to talk to the board. That usually takes about a week to negotiate a contract. We have here a target date of May 19 to make the announcement. So that's kind of what you're looking at, with employment to begin July 1. Any questions about any of that? I went through that pretty quickly, but I just kind of wanted to give you an idea, since we hadn't had a chance to talk to you before, of the general steps. We are the School Boards Association. We are not tied into any candidates. We are your advocates, and we want that to be clear. We don't have a preference of who gets the job. We are here to make you happy. Our organization exists to support school boards, and we are here to make sure that you're happy. If you don't find who you're looking for, we do not want you to compromise. We want to make sure that you get someone that you feel really good about, and we will go get you additional candidates if you feel that you don't have the ones you need. So we don't want you to get discouraged if not all of you can agree. I mean, obviously this can be a very good experience to pull the board together if everybody can agree on something, but we want to make this work for you, and we're here to try to make you happy and find you somebody wonderful. So.
And Allison, part of the reason that you're here tonight is because you have done this so many times, and I think you personally have been involved with.
I think I'm up to my 176th search.
Okay.
I've been doing this. I've been with the School Boards Association 22 years in February, and I started this search when I came, about a year after I came. So I've been doing this service for 21 years. But before that, I was an attorney with Darrington Smith, a law firm in Raleigh that does schoolwork, and I did superintendent searches for our clients. But when I came to the School Boards Association, I saw that other state school board associations did this service, and I said, I can do that. And it actually helps because I know who's out there looking. I can justify going to meetings to recruit candidates and to really get into, who's out there looking and really specialize in this. We believe we have a really fabulous, very professional process, and we're very proud of it. I have people like wonderful young folks like Sam, who are better at computers than I am, and are really very professional folks, and we try to keep it as a very professional service. And I think we gave you some references of people that had worked with us, but you all have worked with us before too, the last several searches you've had. And we hope that you've been happy, and we intend to make you happy again.
I have a question, Neil. Remember last time your office well, so many of them were so many pages behind them, your office ran so we could go there and look to help save paperwork and stuff. Is that something you could do again?
We would do that for those of you that want to look at paper applications, and that's a good way to do it.
I just want to make sure no problems with that.
Yeah, that would be great. And that's, I know that some of you would prefer paper, and what we do is not make a copy separate for everybody, but we do make a set available, and everyone could go to one central place like that and look at them if that's okay with Neil.
Perfectly fine.
Okay, great.
I will alert all of you that last time, if I just had to guess, I would say there are 7,000 to 10,000 pages of documents among all those applications.
At least.
If you come to look, it might take a while, but we need to do that.
You may want to split it up a few days, and So, yeah, we will send a set of files to Neil if that's the way the board wants to proceed, so that if someone wants to come in and look at them, they can.
But you'll also vet some of the candidates if we give you minimum requirements, will you not?
Not exactly. What we do is we'll do the experience chart that'll tell you what people have.
Oh, and then we just.
And then you look at it and you say, well, this person has not is only a teacher. We have those people. It's like, no, we really would like someone with more experience. So that'll give you a chance. We would suggest, and we actually do this now when we put the candidates in, is we put them in groups of people with superintendent experience, in-state and out-of-state, and the applications will be in that order of people with experience down to folks with not as much experience. But you'll have that experience chart, and that'll allow you to do exactly that, but without us intervening. We try not to put our opinion in the process, because then it looks like we're making decisions. So, any other questions or things that you would like me to cover, those of you that have been through the process before?
Well, one question, you said you're going to the Aspiring Superintendents Association in DC and North Carolina?
And North Carolina.
Are these aspiring to be superintendents, or they have experience in the field, they are acting superintendents?
Those particular groups are have not been a superintendent, but I'm also going to the American Association of School Administrators, which is almost all superintendents that come to the job fair. There's a job fair there, and those will be national candidates. So we'll cover all of them. And again, you guys can decide what you're looking for. If you want an experienced superintendent, that can be who you choose to look at when you come together. Or if you feel like there's folks in there that are really strong and may not have been a superintendent but have other experience that that is impressive for you. So it's hard to make those judgments before you see the applications themselves.
So I appreciate that, to pull the wide available applicants, and those that may not even have given us a thought or a look are educated that we're one of the top school districts, if not the state.
Yeah, I fully intend to take copies of your advertisement with me and talk you up as much as I can.
Yes, please.
So that's my job.
Okay, we appreciate that.
We will do that nationally, but I just can't imagine you all wouldn't have some strong applications and a lot of interest. So.
And finally, you mentioned something that you were, as you said, you were going through a lot of information. You said something about typically it's 3 candidates that we interview. Did I hear you correctly? 7 to 10
the first interviews, and then you narrow it down to the second interviews. And in between the first and second interviews, we do a very thorough background check.
Yes.
We get copies of their current contracts, we get references, we get copies of their evaluations that they've gotten in their current positions.
Because I do recall that last time. I thought I missed that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So two interviews. The first one is a broader interview, and that's the most inclusive stage of the process. And then you hopefully will have some folks that you're interested in talking to again.
And how much time do we have to get you information based on how we want to define the position, how we want to list the position, obviously generally, but I remember last time we went through and we decided and we sat here, it was an organic conversation based on whether or not we would open it up to all types of CEOs, professionals, which, I think a lot of us we learned different lessons based on that. However, that part of defining it, are we having that conversation with you? What
I would like to do is leave here tonight so we can start advertising the position with an advertisement, and that's part of that conversation. So we sent you a draft. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for non-traditional candidates, for example, that would be something you would add into the advertisement that we have provided you a copy of. So I would like to have a little bit of opportunity to get those approved tonight, so we can go ahead and get started. So the documents I sent you include.
So other than that, are there other things? I don't think that, I'm not going to speak for anybody, but I don't think we want non-traditional. I think we know we have a lot of experience, but again, that's up to the collective thought of the board. However, are there other things that we have not had a chance to talk about as you run this forward?
Well, again, I think we develop, normally help you develop a profile, and I think the board chairman has said that information's going to get sent to him, mm-hmm. And we'll compile it and get it back to you, and you can give us feedback on whether that's what you want. But it's not a set in stone profile. Everybody is elected bring their own opinion
Yes, yes.
to the decision-making process, so you can't really tell someone, no, you can't consider that, because
Absolutely.
that's not the way democracy works, but
Absolutely, but how much time do we have to have this conversation? Because you're going to leave here and you want to set that profile. Are we?
The profile,
Yeah.
I'd like to have that back to her by Friday.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that should be relatively easy, but we should have the conversation tonight with everybody as far as non-traditional candidates.
At
That's a
least,
very
at
good
least
point.
that's
Yeah.
And again, what we've done is draft a relatively generic advertisement that basically says all the things superintendents are supposed to do. But you know, if you want to change or add anything tonight to the actual advertisement, that would be an opportunity to do that tonight too.
So Allison, my question is this: if we leave here and we later on, our brain is cued to add something to
That's
it.
fine. Send it to me.
Can we send out an addendum to the application process that's out there? So you send out
Sure.
your shell document. Can you tweak it later?
Sure.
Uh-huh.
If we find something that you want to add or have me
Delete.
take to the American Association of School Administrators that's extra to what we're talking about tonight, we can certainly add that.
Okay.
Or tweak whatever's out there.
Great.
Allison, do you have school systems that request non-traditional applicants?
We have had some that were particularly interested, but I wouldn't say it's the majority, but I would say we've had some that are interested in that. As you know, we have a certification process now for superintendent that is, or licensure process, I guess it is, that is sort of two-track. One is superintendents who get a superintendent license have to have at least a PhD or 6-year certificate in educational administration in order to get a license and at least a year's experience as a principal or its equivalent. The other, the State Board of Education, pursuant to legislation enacted a number of years ago, has developed alternative guidelines that allow non-traditional people to be superintendents without the academic credential. They just have to have 5 years of leadership experience that the board deems relevant, and at least a bachelor's degree from an accredited university. So it's very broad, that one. We have had some non-traditional superintendents. Mo Green, who was the superintendent in Guilford County a number of years ago, was actually an attorney for the school system. And Charlotte went in-house as deputy superintendent and then became the superintendent in Guilford County. So we've had those, if that makes.
It does, and we'll include that in our profile by Friday.
Okay.
If everyone just could commit to having all that, and of course I'll copy the entire board when we send it, but anything that you want in that profile, if we could have by
Mhm.
Friday.
I just hope you'll flag something to us. If we put
I
something
will. We
in
will
it
we'll
that
draft
we
it, put
shouldn't
it
in
together.
it, I appreciate your professional opinion that you would give us a little
I will,
guidance.
if I feel like there's something that's missing or that's something.
Or we're going rogue.
Yeah, or you're going rogue. Yeah, part of my job is to say, gee, I haven't seen that before, let's talk about that. That's I promise to be very
Nice way to
diplomatic.
say it.
But yes, and a part of my job is to have a process that works, and I've done this 175 times. I learn something new every time about what might be better.
Mhm.
And so when I'm giving you a recommendation, it'll be on process, not people, but on process, and say, well, this is the way we found this works really well, and this is why, I would recommend the process be this way.
I
So
appreciate that.
you're all free to talk to me anytime about questions that you have. I want to make sure you're comfortable with the process, but I want you also to feel like it's your process, that you guys are the ones that are doing it your way in the sense that you're asking the questions you want to ask, you're making sure that you're going through the processes that you think are critical. Okay?
Other questions?
Let me, so I do have some documents, if the board is in the position to do that, that need approval tonight, if I may.
Yeah, please.
The documents that are on the right-hand side of your materials, it's just a few documents. One is that we need to approve the application deadline, which I said we have recommended March 2nd. That gives us 8 weeks, and we would need a formal approval of that. The rest of the things on this timeline are advisory. They're not set in stone. You see, we have a range of when you'll be able to schedule your first, when you should be thinking about scheduling your first set of interviews. It's a range, it's not a date. So we can set those later, but the one thing I do need to do is advertise a deadline for the application. So if I could get approval of that, that would be helpful.
So we'll have two motions tonight. One will be to approve your contract, and the second will be to approve specifically the timeline?
There will be a few others.
Okay.
I need some input on too. We'll need to approve an advertisement and places to advertise. When we incur expenses, then we will get approval from the board, even if it's a consensus in closed session. And one of those is about the advertising. So Sam is going to come up and talk to you very briefly about both the advertisement and where we recommend you to consider advertising, and we'll need approval of those things as well.
Thanks, Allison. So if you look at the third document on the right-hand side of your folder, that should be the draft advertisement of the vacancy. And as Allison said, it mostly includes what you would expect, the qualifications that you would expect a superintendent to have, and then it also has some demographic information about your county and your community. And so if we could just go through this draft paragraph by paragraph and make sure that you're comfortable with the language that we've included, and we can change anything in it, except, of course, for the the due date for the applications, which y'all seem to have agreed will be March 2nd, 2020. So is there anything in that first paragraph that anybody would like to change? I think a lot of this was taken from, public websites and stuff, so I think.
Anything in that first paragraph anybody wants to change? Tabby or?
First sentence, really?
Well, you're talking about the first sentence, not the first paragraph?
Forgive me. If we could just start with the first sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
First sentence, everybody.
Sentence and paragraph.
Literal.
How about the second paragraph? That may take a second to read.
Needs to be adjusted. Do you have the actual one tonight? Yeah, we'll have to adjust the student number.
Okay.
And we can leave it so that if something's not wrong, you can just direct us to get the information from your administration. You don't need to remember it tonight.
But I could email Tabby about that. Okay.
There you go.
There we are. Okay.
Anybody else in there? Does it mention? Oh yeah, there we go. Never mind. All right. Anybody else first or second paragraph? Third.
Yep.
Well, there's a question I got right there where it says, from Cedar Island to Cedar Point's not the end of the county, where it is, Stella is.
What is it? Stella?
Stella,
Stella.
Stella,
Okay.
not Cedar Point.
Okay.
I think we got this off your Chamber of Commerce website.
Yeah, Cedar Point is on the western side, so, but Stella is on the, I guess, the northern side.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Adam and Allison a question?
Please, Sam.
This is with respect to the first sentence of the third major paragraph.
Uh-huh.
Which says candidates must meet legal requirements to be licensed as a superintendent in North Carolina. That's clear. Or be qualified to serve under the State Board of Education's alternative guidelines.
That's what I just explained.
Do school systems, can they say we're not gonna consider candidates under the alternative guidelines? Is that an option?
They can, however, we don't recommend that. And you can certainly say, we want you to have superintendent license. You can also say we want superintendent licenses preferred, which would be, we could add that in. But there may be somebody absolutely fabulous that you really want, but doesn't meet that criteria. And let me give you an example. You could have someone who's been a superintendent in another state. Not all of them require a doctorate or 6-year certificate, but they could be a 20-year superintendent from another state with an incredible track record. And if you say that, they're not even going to apply because they wouldn't be eligible. So that's why we would encourage you to say preferred but not required as, with regulations.
Now, Ms. Ayers, doesn't that kind of address the point you were making a moment ago? About the alternative?
I'm saying I'm not, the last search committee, we opened it up. I'm not wanting to open it up to those without, education experience. We went outside the realm. We had a few. We didn't have that many applicants, but at the same time, I just think we need to keep it clean.
Didn't have that many non-traditional.
We didn't have that
applicants.
non-traditional.
And you
But
don't
I don't
have
think
to
this is,
interview
this is
people if
not
you do that.
non-traditional though.
Right.
This is just somebody that could be
A
by
master's degree who has superintendent experience.
but doesn't qualify under North Carolina guidelines.
Didn't you say somebody with a master's degree that's been a principal a number of years, that person still
doctorate.
qualifies?
They don't qualify for a
doctorate degree.
superintendent license, but they do qualify under the alternative guidelines.
That's why it's so important that we have it in there. Yes.
Does that help?
Cast a wider net.
But I don't,
Because there's people that's got experience as a principal that should probably be a good superintendent also.
Well, and that's what that
That's-
alternative guidelines allows.
Correct.
so but we're backed up to the second paragraph, right?
And I've made the change to Stella. Is there any
Okay.
other, are there any other changes?
Anybody else? Down to the fourth.
Okay.
We didn't get through them. Let's see. Oh, can you look at the thirds?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm calling that the fourth.
Okay.
Because Sam called me out on it.
Oh, right.
Forgive me.
So you'll see in here, we have a doctorate degree or progress for a doctorate degree is preferred but not required, so that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Preference but not omitting people who don't have that.
That's good, Mr.
Anything in the fourth paragraph? Fifth.
Okay.
Pretty good. Any issues?
Do you want them to vote on it now to approve the
No,
timeline?
are you waiting to vote on everything?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get all the documents.
So we would need that approved with the changes as noted
That's
to
right.
the demographic information.
Yeah, and Richie and Tabby, please chime in if there's something that you feel like we need to add or.
Okay, and the document behind the draft advertisement are our standard advertising options. And you'll notice on the first page that the majority of the list of the suggested advertisements are free. There is one that will incur a cost to the board, and that's the only one that requires a cost that Allison, in her experience, recommends boards use. That's the AASA that she was talking about earlier, and she does recommend that you do 60 days. We have found that that's a worthwhile use of the board's money. But we do think that just the advertisements on the front is sufficient to get you a really good pool of candidates. However, on the second page, there are other options that will incur additional cost. But if the board would like to use those, we certainly can do that. And you're welcome to discuss the merits of using some of those on the second page, as well as the one on the first.
Everybody willing to take the recommendation of the 60-day advertisement cost? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We really like that free word. But with going forward, you're, and Melissa, you're good with that too? So when we approve these documents, we'll approve this
Just-
first sheet option with the 60-day?
Yep, correct.
Blair, Tabby, Richie, that sound good?
Okay.
The last document we need the board to look at and give us some guidance on is the application form, which is the last document in that stack. Most of this is very traditional, where have you worked, where have you gone to school, what organizations do you belong to, where's your address? But in page 9 and 10, we would like to point you to those 2 pages where the board gets to select which essays it wants folks to answer. So there's, on 9 is short answer questions, and on page 10 is essays. We don't think you should ask people to answer all of these. That's a lot. So what we're suggesting is that you choose 4 to 6 on page 9 of essays, of short answer questions, sorry, and on page 10, choose 3 or 4. Remember what the application is. It's a chance for you to get information that allows you to screen people in or out. So I think it's important to ask questions that you think will help you determine whether someone would be a good candidate, and that depends on your priorities. And so we've given you a list there, but I think we should narrow it down to between 4 and 6. So if we could have a little discussion about that.
Absolutely. If everyone just take a little bit of time on page 9 and highlight 4 to 6 that are really important to us, and then we'll have some discussion.
Let me just, your instructional leadership, are you meaning curriculum?
Yes,
Yes.
right. Being an academic leader.
Mhm.
Said 4 to 6 on page 9 and 3 to 4 on 10.
3 to 4 and 10. Mhm. And again, you can come up with other things than what we have, but we try to cover the most
Right.
normal things that folks would ask about.
And again, if somebody thinks of something tonight, we'll shoot that to you.
Yeah,
later on.
that'd be great.
Um,
And remember, this is not your only chance to ask them questions.
Right.
This is the only chance to ask all the candidates the questions, but when you select people to interview, you're going to be able to ask them additional questions. So this is a screening tool, not all the information we could possibly need tool.
On page 9, anybody feel strongly about, I don't know the best way to do this, but I would like to propose number 4. Student achievement obviously is important to us, if that's one that we can include. 4.
Why don't we vote? I don't know. It's gonna be hard.
Yeah, and what are some others that, I don't remember how we did this last time, Allison.
We
It's
just
kind
let
of
people
a
throw out who are
laborious-
the ones they're interested in, and
Okay.
we'll talk about how to make it work.
So I talked to some of the administrators.
Sweet little sneeze.
I talked to some of the administrators today on my drive back from Greenville, which I really appreciate. It was a little crazy, but many of them stressed to me just some considerations, because I think it's so important. We're the boss of the person that we're hiring, but they are the ones in the trenches. And a few things that came out to me, and I don't know how this would fit in, but paramount was curriculum, instructional leadership, which fits that. But the second thing that there was a theme, and they were talking about, and I don't know where 5 and 3 look a lot alike, personnel relations and organizational planning and team building, but they really stressed listening to the administrators. This is what our administrators are asking, that they get somebody that they have a rapport with and or that are receptive to what they need individually in their schools. So 3 and 5, we'd have to pick one of those, but they fit that.
We can combine them
Put 'em together.
if you'd like us to.
Okay. Well,
Um,
and I'm not sure what they'll want, but I'm telling you what I got to talk to everybody about.
Okay.
So those were 2 of the things that came out. And then one, I think I can talk about this. It was one of the principals said, absolutely, we've got to have an innovator, somebody who knows how to use technology. We have an exceptional system, but if we don't maintain innovation and so forth, so that would be
Number 7.
number 7.
The use of instructional technology and other innovative media to improve student performance. That sounds right on point for that
Yes. And then another theme, and this is again just the dynamic conversations I had today, was that we're such a unique population. We have military, we have folks who have never left the county, and they really want somebody that sort of understands and can work and has had experience working with diverse populations.
So that'd be number 8?
Would that be number 8 if we went with those particular ones? And then
I look at that as number 6. You've got to be able to go out in the community and have good relationship with people out there.
well, and then finally, I would say the final thing that somebody had stressed with me, and I think this is very important, but I use the word being a storyteller, telling who we are and what we are. So for instance, when we put out a program, whether it's a school or what have you, if we don't have a good communicator that can't sell it to the community, when there's naysayers or anything, we need somebody who can communicate what we're doing and foster the relationships with the community. So those were the things that I was told by the administrators today. And I probably talked to very quickly, but probably 7 or 8 on. So that.
And I've got a question as well. I know this is probably not per y'all's protocol, but if you could possibly find a way where we could work the input of some representatives of the administrators into this process, I think that would be a fantastic thing to do.
Let me make a suggestion. If you want to have a forum, not to talk about, I think once you get access to the individuals, that can create a problem from a legal standpoint and a confidentiality standpoint. But if you want to have a forum that the board holds with your administrators to talk to them about their concerns, similar to what you're hearing today, and what input they would like to see in their new superintendent, rather than have them meet the candidates, which violates the confidentiality rules and also the rule that you guys have to be the decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
But to have a forum where you guys listen to them, that's something you could do in terms of getting input, and that might be what you're talking about. I don't know if that addresses it.
It might be.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about, it might not be.
Yeah. I think it's really challenging to start including people. The board is a defined by law entity that has this decision-making responsibility, and I think you run into a lot of legal issues and political issues if you start adding people into the interview process or the consideration of application process. And by law, it has to be the board, and that's all confidential. And
I understand that, and I appreciate that. What I'd like is just some thoughts put out there, maybe some possible solutions, like you said.
Yeah, if you could have a forum for a school program. We've had forums before for different boards, and if you want to do that, and some boards have chosen to have different groups that they hear from at different times. So a group of administrators might be someone you guys would want to call together and get input from before you see the applications. Not about people, but about what they're interested in. And those, it sounds like you've done your own research really on that.
And I've
issue.
also offered anyone during the process can reach out to me and have a conversation or email me.
And it may be the board would want to hear from, or at least some of the board, maybe a couple of you appointed to hear or to listen to those folks, or another process, whether it's just email you, or I don't know how you would want to do that. But
that's incredibly important, I think, to the entire board. We recognize that it's the 7 members' decision, but we do, I think, want to
absolutely
find a way to include.
And so a
administrative
forum,
input.
or that's specifically identified for the staff, to the board to hear from the staff, might be the way to accomplish, I think, what you're looking for.
Could you put that somewhere in the timeline? Try to
Sure.
help us where that would.
I would suggest that is while you're, in the 2 months while you're advertising, that you have that before you see the first candidate, so that when you're assessing the candidates, you have that information available to you. so that you will have had that conversation with your administrators before that. Is that the group that you're particularly want, or do you want any other groups, or is that the one that you're most interested in hearing from?
Well, as far, we've done this obviously a couple of years ago, so I
Right.
don't think the community, if that's what you're referring to.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've had a recent survey information.
Right, we have that. I think that we're just talking about,
We can
employees.
add a forum in, we'll be glad to facilitate that if that would be helpful to you.
And is that,
Additional cost?
No.
Yeah.
I'll
No,
ask that.
our time, the reason we do what we do is we charge you for our time. We don't charge you by the hour, we just charge you a flat fee, and then if you want to add things, that's just part of the process. And if you want to, us to do other special things, we don't charge you extra for that.
is that forum, this type forum?
It would
or
be
is
a
it-
public forum if it's a board meeting. Because it's if any group that's advisory to the board, I'm going back to Neil here, but
Yeah.
any group that's advisory to the board, that has to be a public meeting. And it wouldn't be about specific people, so you don't want a forum
Never.
for discussing individual people. You want a forum to discuss characteristics, experiences, background.
In our December meeting, we got quite a bit of feedback.
Okay.
on what
From
they're
the,
looking for, what the employees are looking for, so.
okay,
Let us talk about that.
okay,
and,
that's fine. It just would be you'd have to have a public
oh, yeah,
meeting.
absolutely.
And we're happy to add that in, but I would suggest you do it before the application deadline, before the board sees the application, so you have that information when you're reviewing the applicants.
Yes, because this is the point. The point is, if we're going to listen to those voices, which I think they need to have a buy-in, it's so important that we're attracting those applicants, not just asking them those questions in the actual interview.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming since you reached out, it is okay, like, there's multiple principals in
Yes.
the audience, that they know that they can reach out to us and let us know things that they hope to see in the next superintendent, or is that?
If you want them, it depends on how formal, I mean, that's fine. You're gonna get people coming up to you in the grocery store and telling you that too. That's just the way it works. They are your constituents. But there's nothing wrong with that. If the board wants a more formal process where everybody could hear that same information, rather than share it anecdotally with each other, then that's up to you.
Or could they all email us,
Absolutely.
or email you, and then you share it with
And,
everybody?
and that happens in every research I've done, where you have community members emailing the boards about their opinions about things. And they do that about other things too, not just about
Right.
superintendent
Yeah,
search.
but they need to know it's welcomed, at least by
Yeah.
me and I
Yeah.
think others. But again, try not to speak for anyone.
No, absolutely. I think it is. Okay, so for page 9, can we identify 1, 3, and 5 combined, 4, and then a couple others tonight? And by the end of this week, if you want to add or remove something, we can send that to them.
You got that?
7.
Yeah. Well, we were gonna put out advertisements tomorrow, as soon as possible, so.
That's
Yeah, we
what
can
I did.
change it and change it but the ones
Right.
that we're sending off to the national folks and
And
everything.
do we want more time, or do you feel like we can do this tonight? Pick the questions that we want.
If we can change it, I think we can do it or not.
Okay.
You can change it. What I was hearing, and help me with this, is actually combining 1 and 4. And combining 3 and 5, adding 6, 7, and 8. So that's 1, 2, 3,
So-
4, 5.
We don't have anything on showing somebody's experience in the funding and budgeting process, right? We haven't
Yeah, I
addressed
think
that.
2 and 10 need to be added together.
So
Yes.
2 and 10, that would be
We need to
6.
see their experience,
We can
so-
combine 2 and 6.
So we
2
basically
and 10.
answered all the questions on there.
Right, we just combine them. Well, we told you we gave you the laundry list.
I
You're-
do agree. 6 and 8 can probably be worded and combined. There's community relations, if you're saying diverse
Yeah.
populations,
Yeah.
that could be one.
And they're
If
gonna
you combine
elaborate on
6
what
and
their
8.
strong suit is.
Yeah.
So if you give them the question, they're gonna.
What we will do is after tonight, we will combine them. Sam will be
Yep.
working tomorrow. And
Taking good notes, Sam.
Got it.
we'll put them together in a way that we think makes sense and get them to you to look at and get comments back. Remember, a reply all is a board meeting, so just comment back directly to us, not to each other, and we can facilitate, incorporating your concerns. But we will get you a draft before we release it so that you can see what we've done to combine these and make them,
In 24 hours.
which, yes, absolutely. We worked fast.
All right.
I believe it.
Um,
All right, so page 9 is basically all the questions combined.
Except number 9. I don't think, didn't hear anything about number 9.
Well, we can't leave that
Well,
out.
that's important.
I'm serious.
I'm glad
That
you
is
like
very
our list.
important.
That's all I can
I
say.
was just telling you what I heard today. I wasn't
Okay.
trying to exclude it. But absolutely
Remember
it's
too,
something.
that this is just what experiences that you've had
Right.
and accomplishments. So,
It's
you
not
know,
the
you're
priority.
asking for folks to say what they've done in this particular category
Uh-huh.
of list. So we'll work on that.
Okay.
And I mean, if you want to ask all these questions, you can, but we'll combine them so that
One-
it's a little more
And
manageable for the
one and 4 going
candidates.
together? Okay.
One and
five?
One and
1 and
three.
4.
4, 3 and 5, 2 and 10, 6 and 8 and 7.
Man, you really
All
are.
right, we can't keep up with the young
Yeah.
mind.
Oh, my goodness.
Again, we'll combine them and shave them down a little bit
So
so that
somewhere
it'll
we
be.
want the safety to go in.
It's okay.
In
All right,
in
got
one of
it.
these. Safety is definitely.
You want everything on this list.
Yep.
You just,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But we will make them a more concise
Thank you.
list. All right, are we going to do the same thing with the next page?
Number 10.
Number 10. This is just essays. It doesn't have to be any of these questions. Is there something you want to know about this person? You know, why are you interested in leaving your current position? You know, how should the board and superintendent work together to complement each other and support each other? What would you do to raise student achievement levels? This is prospective. This is what you would do, how you would, as opposed to the other ones, which is what have you done? This is what would you do to help us in certain areas. So I don't know if any of these are interesting to you or all of them.
And how many do you suggest?
3 to 4. There's only 6 on here, but
Okay.
Can you combine
Well,
them all?
we'll try, 'cause these are more essays. Okay.
Anything jump out at anyone?
I mean, I personally would like to see number 6.
number 6 is please describe your leadership style.
I like it too. Catherine, you like 6?
Number 4 is what are your experiences and
I like number
skills
2
you have
also.
to make you believe that you're qualified to be our next
Mhm.
superintendent.
And Dear Catherine, number 2.
2 is
Working.
how the board and superintendent should work together. That's a
Yes.
critical piece. Okay, that's 3. Anything else that you feel strongly about?
Well, I always like to know why someone's interested in leaving their current position.
Why folks are interested in leaving their current position? Number 1, why do they want to come
I
here?
know, we'll get that. Yeah, that's true. You may not get that.
What,
Um,
am I hearing some?
maybe they wouldn't be as. We could ask them that in the interview process.
So take that one out?
Yes.
Take number 1 out? Okay, right now I have 2, 4, and 6. Board and superintendent working together, what makes you qualified to be our superintendent, and describe your leadership style.
Can you combine 5 somehow with 6?
We can just,
Yeah.
we can have 4, we're still only at
Okay.
3, so.
Okay.
Number 5, so what would you,
About leadership.
what would you first do to learn about our communities and schools? Okay? Okay? We good with those?
Yes, ma'am, I hope everybody.
Okay, that one was easier than the last page, so. Okay, so we would, we would like approval of this document with the selections that the board has made on pages 9 and 10 reflected in the document, okay? Everybody good with that? Okay, so we have the list of things that need to be approved, Mr. Chairman?
I believe so. Okay, so we need a motion to approve the contract, and we need a motion to approve the timeline,
Well, the date, the application deadline.
right, the advertising, the fee schedule, and the application. Are those the only 4 things that we're approving?
Yes.
Okay.
But the
It's actually
application will have
5,
a
but-
caveat, right?
Yes, insert all of them. I just want to make sure I understood what they
Okay.
were. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the contract with the North Carolina School Board Association?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Jake made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Clark with a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We look forward to working with you.
And is there a motion to approve the search documents for the superintendent? The 4 that we just mentioned. Brittany with the motion. Is there a second? Jake with a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. All right.
Now we got the timeline part. Also part in there.
That was part of the search documents, yeah.
So we're just gonna leave it as search documents, not do each one individually.
Yes, so the search documents we approved are timeline, advertisement, fee schedule, and the application.
Which I'll send you a draft of first thing
Yeah,
tomorrow.
perfect. Yeah.
I,
You good with
thank
that?
you, and we're gonna start advertising tomorrow, so we're ready to go.
Great.
Once we get the approval, it may be the next day, if it takes a little while to go back and forth on making sure we have everything like you want it. So we
And
will give you that opportunity.
And the profile piece, we will have to you by Friday,
Great,
as long as and that's what we're looking for, characteristics and all that.
okay. I do have one more thing. We do have an online application process. We will post confidential documents online for you. I have for you your individual passwords. This is a card you should keep in your wallet and keep it confidential. I know that some of you want to get hard copies, and I'll arrange for that. But if you want to do the online process, that's where all the applications will be, and all of the correspondence that names anybody that's confidential. These are your passwords, and this is the directions on how to get on them, on the system. If you have any problem, Sam knows the answers, and I don't, because he's the technology guy.
We're gonna call Mike.
And we
Just call
have,
us.
that's right, just call us. We have great assistants that can help you get online or whatever. So let me just hand these out. This is a unique password. Please do not share it with anyone. It's like having your password to your email or your individual credit cards. If I could pass these out.
Please, yes, ma'am. And we'll access these when we start getting the resumes in.
You won't, yeah, when we
March.
let you know in March, right. But everything till then will be open session, or open public record, and we're not gonna send you anything confidential till then.
Super.
So that's, Sam, did you hand these out?
Sure.
Dr. Jake here. That's the directions. You
Okay.
should have the contact information.
So you get on it.
Thank
You can
you.
send these if you lose these, so
Keep
don't
that very
freak out.
confidential.
You
don't
can't
want
find
anyone to
it
get
in
access to
March.
that. So, you don't want them on
Neil's like Allison, Sam.
We'll get it to you.
Hard copy.
Right.
We will, we'll get you. Travis is not here.
Yeah,
Can we
Should
get
I-
this to you?
please, yeah.
Get to Travis? Get to Travis, log into.
What do you feel comfortable
It's the same information you'll get. It's not any different than what you'll get, so that's fine. It doesn't matter. It's the same information. You all get exactly the same information.
Okay.
So, we do take real good care to make sure that you all get the same information at the same time,
Please.
and that you all get all the information you need. If you have any questions, feel free to call us. As I said and alluded to earlier, we're here till you're happy. We want you to have someone you feel good about. We don't want you to feel rushed. If you feel like you want us to take more time, then, we're here to work with you till you're happy. If you need more candidates, we've occasionally had to go back and find additional candidates if you're not finding what you're looking for. We don't want you to settle, and that's really important.
And we won't.
Well, and if I can just say, having experienced this, there were 4 of us that went through this process with your team prior to this. It was an exceptional experience from
Thank you.
start to finish. I felt like we had a thorough search process in place. The integrity of the process was maintained, and of course we came out with the top candidate through that process. But we really had access, and I appreciate the hand-holding and the tweaking and helping us. So I look forward to it again.
Thank you. Well, we're here to make you happy, really. That's our jobs, and we really take it seriously. We really take pride in the work that we do, and we work very hard at it, and we're glad you had a good
Great
experience.
confidence in you.
Thank you, and we appreciate the confidence in us, so, thank you. I'm going to talk to Neil for 1 minute about a matter, but is there anything else that,
Safe travels back to Raleigh.
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, gotcha.
And next, Ms. Carswell, we have a budget resolution to consider. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This year has been a very unusual year as far as budgeting goes. As everyone knows, the state has not adopted yet an official budget. Well, what the state has done, they have adopted mini budgets. So this is January. However, these budgets were approved back in March, April, and May, June. This is what we had submitted to the county commissioners. And so it's just late coming to you because of the state waiting on information. This budget resolution, the 2019-2020 budget resolution, it includes a step increase for all employees and also benefit increases, because those were parts of the different mini budgets, was to give the teachers their step increases and to also increase the benefits. The retirement rate went from 18.86% to 19.7%, and the hospital insurance cost went from $61.04 to $63.06. Now, the General Assembly will return, I think it's January the 14th when they're supposed to return. So once they approve a budget, I may be bringing some budget amendments back to you that will add on to these amounts. But this is currently what we have now. So to start with Section 1, the local current expense budget. The local current expense budget resolution is $24,685,603. And this is a 1.5% increase over the 18-19 budget resolution.
All state mandated increases.
All state, we had 3 different items. We had the state mandated increases, and we had the the increase with the MAST, and then we had the salary alignment. Those were all the increases that were part of this budget, the local budget. Then we have the state public school fund, and the total amount here is $50,597,601, and that is 2.2%. And again, this would include those step increases. It would include the benefit increases for retirement and retirement and the hospital insurance matching. The federal budget is $4,890,865, which is a 3.3% increase. If you remember, in past years, we may have a budget resolution, and then additional months later, we would bring additional federal funding as it came in. So that would be a reason for this increase. This is January, where typically you would be getting the budget resolution in August or September. So we have now received those funds.
Now, that include the testing bonuses included with that?
It includes some of the bonuses, but not all of the bonuses. The state has not allotted all of the bonuses. We're expecting those to be allotted in the next 2 weeks. So you will, after adoption of this budget resolution, you will have a budget amendment to approve for the teacher bonuses. Section 7, which is your capital outlay fund, is $3,285,346, and this is a 56% increase. But the reason for that is we had the West Carteret High School the air handling unit, which was $156,000 that were requested from contingency. We had the Harker's Island chiller and the Bogue Sound chiller that we requested from contingency that is included in this budget, and that amounts up to $407,000. So that is the reason for those increases. And again, that was the West Carteret High School air handling unit, the Harker's Island chiller, and the Bogue Sound chiller, and those amount to $407,000.
And I think that was Kenny and Matt's brainchild, and
Yes.
the commissioners have really appreciated that. We're not asking for something that we don't need, but we're letting them know what's on the radar, and that they've appreciated how we've handled that, so thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Did that include the White Oak
breakdown when it broke down? Right, beginning
I
of
can't
summer?
remember if that was part of
That
it.
Operations.
Okay, it was out of operations. In section 9, which is child nutrition fund, this is an 11.45% increase. It's $4,442,162. This is because of the CEP program, which our revenue is increasing because of the CEP. Also, our expenditures are increasing. So that's one of the reasons.
Now, is that covering still with the free food for K through 8?
That is correct. And section 11, the special revenue fund, this is $4,039,448. And then the total all appropriations, $91,941,24, and that's an increase of 5.12% from 18-19. Any questions?
Now, that's what we're expected to get when the budget and the Senate and all them finally get together and say, okay, this is our budget, and that's what
Yes.
we're gonna be handed down.
This part has been approved by the mini budgets.
This is uncomfortable for all of us, but I haven't been here before, and I don't know if you've gone this long without having a state
have
budget
not.
before. Can you make us feel any better? I mean, what you're hearing, or I know they're coming back.
What I'm hearing is all skeptical. It's just
Yeah.
people's
Yeah.
opinions, and I just really don't know.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, it is incredibly comforting knowing that you and your team are back there and have your eye on this, because to most everybody, it is like a foreign language. So thank you for what you're doing,
Thank you.
and please keep doing it.
And everybody keep questioning their legislators
Mhm.
because if you don't, they'll sit there and just keep taking their time like they've been doing, dragging their feet.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Carswell? We need a motion to approve the budget resolution.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the budget resolution as presented by Ms. Kathy Carswell.
Motion by Melissa, is there a second? Second by Jake. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Whitford, consider petitioning General Assembly regarding our districts.
Mr. Chairman and board members, we learned in early December of growing confusion about the difference between the school board and the county commissioner electoral districts. Confusion was creating complications with respect to filing for school board seats. You stepped in quickly to end the confusion by aligning your districts with those of the county commissioners. Because the confusion in part resulted in local bills adopted over time by the General Assembly, I'm recommending that you ask the General Assembly to clarify the local bills to provide unequivocally that the districts, nominating, and election procedures are the same for the school board as for the county commissioners. So I recommend that you move to petition the General Assembly to consider adopting the act to establish and confirm the district for members of the Carteret County Board of Education, a draft which is in front of you, that you approve that tonight. And if you approve this action, we will ask Senator Sanderson and Representative McElrath to introduce this bill as soon as possible and to shepherd it through the General Assembly during the upcoming session.
Any questions for Mr. Whitford?
Now, Mr. Whitford, the previous stuff that we were told by the Board of Elections is what's already been stated, is it not? When the candidates and everything filed, it said everybody was in the right district and all that. What you did in December was to confirm what the Board of Elections was already doing. And so that, when you realigned your districts, the Board of Elections had already assumed that the districts were aligned. So you confirm what their thought was.
But we still got to send this to the state legislature to be finalized, approved.
The Board of Elections have taken the position and they're moving forward with this election, and you helped them out in December. But at least to some extent, the uncertainty was caused by the wording and the bills that the General Assembly had adopted over time. It goes back to either 1993 or even before. And so this action, what you're asking tonight is that the General Assembly just confirm all the language and just state for the record that your elections, the whole process, your districts, the whole process of elections are the same as for the county commission.
Any other questions? We'll need a motion to approve the petitioning of the General Assembly regarding districts.
Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jake, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Catherine. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Miss Landry, thank you. Receive Teacher-Student Growth Celebration.
Yes, I always get the fun stuff.
That's right.
So I'm going to change really quickly so that you can see. Sorry for the boys. But they're the fun stuff, right? That's what we're all about is our students.
Excuse me.
So my name is Allison Landry, and I have the privilege of serving Carteret County Schools as the Director of Mathematics and Data Analytics. As you know, we have lots of data, and data is always constant. I am continually reviewing the data, discussing trends that we're seeing, and the impacts that it's having on our students, our teachers, our classrooms, with my curriculum, not my development team, but my colleagues in the curriculum directors, and also with our school building principals, their assistant principals, and then ultimately the teachers within their classrooms. So before the break, I just informally shared this bit of data with our principals, and we felt that it was really important that we just give those growth shout outs to you as our Board of Education. And so you might remember me coming and presenting in October, might have been November, when we were discussing how the EVOS data had been released and many of our schools met growth, and we celebrated those successes. What we've received mid-November was the teacher and student growth data that accompanies that. And so we had a few shout outs that we just wanted to talk to you tonight and share about our district. And so EVOS stands for Education Value Added Assessment System, and basically it measures the growth of every single student from the day they come into your classroom until the day they leave. So for high school it's semester growth, and then for elementary and middle it is year-long growth. Because we know that proficiency isn't what it's all about. We know that we want every student to grow at least 1 year's worth of growth. And so we have some celebrations today. So the first shout out that we are very, very proud about is that all student subgroups met or exceeded growth in the areas of mathematics, reading, and science. And the reason that I have to say just those three subject areas, even though they're massive, is because that is what's reported by EVOS. So we are so excited because we had teacher groups, we had administrator groups, directors, we had our assistant superintendents and our superintendent come in together and work on these subgroups, areas that we needed improvement, and we made that improvement. And so I just wanted to give a shout out for our AIG, which is academic and intellectually gifted, our economically disadvantaged students, our English learners, our students with disabilities, and our Hispanic and white students. They all exceeded growth. So overall as a district, every one of our subgroups met or exceeded, and then these specifically exceeded growth. That is a huge shout out, and that is a huge accomplishment. That is the result of the hard work and effort every day in every classroom from our teachers and our students. So congratulations to all of them. Another shout out that I wanted to talk to you about is our district human capital retention. And basically what that means is this is a report that allows us as a district to see if the decisions that we're making when we are hiring new teachers or when we are making instructional changes within our classrooms and within our buildings are having an impact. Some of these instructional changes may be voluntary, where a science teacher says, hey, I want to move from 8th grade to 6th grade. Or some of them may be voluntold. So all of these things, it helps us affirm or it helps us to make adjustments to the decisions that we're making in our school buildings. And so for the 2018-2019 school year, all of our tested areas, that's K2 reading, the end of grade, end of course assessments, and the NC final exams, all of our entering teachers or the teachers that were changed or our new hires or those teachers that remained in our buildings, those all were 80% or above, and that is outstanding. And you'll see the state comparison and how much higher we are with our retention rates. And I think that speaks it just sheds a light on how Carteret County employees shine and how the decisions that our administrators are making really shine. So I want to draw your attention really quickly to these colors. It's important that you understand what these colors are so that you know what that data is telling you. And so really, if you want to look for green, light blue, and dark blue, those are the major areas. So it says level 3, that's a green. That means they met growth. Those are percentages meeting growth. And then level 5 means that they actually exceeded growth. And then 4 we know is just somewhere in between. It's all good, right? So if you'll take a second and just look at the K2 assessments, this is the reading progress that we administer throughout the school year. It is really important to understand that that foundational work with our K2 students impacts our test scores greatly. And so what this shows you here is that we had 20 teachers entering, again, new hires or they moved grade levels or subject areas, but 95% of those teachers met or exceeded growth, 63% for the state. That's amazing. We had 72 teachers that remained in their grade level and in their specific content area within the K2 assessment, and 84% of those teachers in Carteret County met or exceeded growth, 72% for the state. Again, we're killing it. So with our EOG, our end of grade, and our EOCs, our end of course assessments, that's grades 3 and up in math, reading, and science. Again, this is a big bulk. So when I say these numbers, you're thinking, we have that many new teachers? No. Remember, it's new or teachers that were new to their content area or grade level. But 91 teachers entered and 84% met or exceeded growth. The state, 67%. And then for those teachers that remained in their content areas or remained in their grade levels for the EOG and EOC assessments, 85% of those teachers met or exceeded growth, and 78% for the state. We're doing great things. And finally, just a huge shout out for our NC final exams. These start in grade 6 and up, and they primarily focus with social studies and then some of the math, some of the science, and some of the reading. But we had 49 new teachers, again, changed content area or were new hires, and 84% of those met or exceeded growth with 71% of the state. And we had 120 teachers remaining in their content area with 95% meeting or exceeding growth and only 64% for the state. So I know it's not a lot, but it is it's not a huge presentation, but it's a huge accomplishment. And so we felt that it was really important that we just congratulate Carteret County Schools once again for all that they're doing in the classrooms every single day, giving it their all, and we're excited about inspiring, educating, and empowering students for life. Thank you.
I always appreciate your passion, and it always amazes me.
I'm gonna start to take offense to that.
No, I love it. It gets us fired up, and it always amazes me how our school system is able to drill down to an individual student, and that's what it's all about in the end. But and these numbers just demonstrate that that's what we do every single day, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, my
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Take it away, Claire.
Mr. Probst.
It is clear I need to start lobbying as to when I present during these meetings, because I always seem to follow up some great
That's right.
presentations, and then I bring the mood down.
No,
So,
absolutely not.
So before you, for second read policy is just one policy. And again, this particular policy was sent by the School Board Association in a single update. And it was for the reason of a timeline that they wanted to get taken care of. And again, this policy goes back to the district now having to send all CDL drivers through an additional background check process, which is federal government has called the clearinghouse. We have now registered with the clearinghouse. We're in the process of, you have to purchase so many background checks and go through this process, and there's a timeline and the way we can do it, and we're still working with that, try to figure out how we're going to do it. We've got till the end of the year to get all of the current people in it. There's a process in which you have to do new people as well, and it's convoluted, complicated, and fun, and no extra money has been given to us to do it. So in order to go through the process, we have the policy in front of you for approval tonight. There was no changes to the policy since the last review.
Is there a motion to approve the policy presented?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the policy.
Brittany with the motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Catherine, second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For first read policies, the bulk majority of those policies came from a new fall 2019 School Board Association update packet. That's probably got around 60 policies in it. We're going to take it in little strides. The ones that are before you tonight are just for technical changes. These would be revisions to cross-references, legal citations or references, web links, and typographical errors. So there's nothing really to highlight in those. However, the School Board Association sent another individual policy to review, and this one has gotten quite a bit of notoriety, I think, in the press. It is policy 4240, 7312, child abuse reports investigations. And what's happened is the state has gone and made some statutory changes to the reporting process when there is child abuse. It used to be that it was contingent upon the relationship between the child and the caretaker or the person who abused. Now that is no longer a part of that statute. Is if you have knowledge of an individual who's abusing a child, you have to report regardless of who the person is. So that was changed. And then another part of that is that it now requires LEAs or districts to have a 2-hour training process for all individuals that are directly in touch with students. So all of our teachers, administrators are going to have to go through a 2-hour process of training in regards to sexual abuse and sex trafficking. That has to be started in the next school year, so we're going to go through the process of putting together a curriculum to do that. Fortunately, that training is every other year, but we will start that next year. So that is just for first read and for your review. If you've got questions about that in the meantime before next month, please just reach out and let me know.
Who's gonna pay for that training?
We do.
Yeah.
So,
No money's given to us.
State's not gonna help out at all.
No.
We do it on our own.
No. I will say that the School Board Association and North Carolina School Attorneys have sent out some information about possible free information for these trainings, but it's just something we're going to have to look into and figure out before next year.
Is that the same on this new CDL thing? We got to pay it? Are we gonna pay the people that are having to do that? Are they gonna get reimbursed? Or?
There's really not a process for them to go through. We pay for the background check. We ask for them to put the information in. It looks like the current employees, we can put the information in for them. Fortunately, it's not like the pre-K situation where you had to get the fingerprints. But for new employees, there's a different process where they have to apply for it. I think what will happen is when they apply, they'll affiliate with us and it will go against our account, basically. So we end up paying for it, yes.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Consider the 2020-2021 school calendar. Mr. Taylor?
Yes, you have in your packets school calendar for next year that was presented in November at the board meeting, and we decided to hold off and wait before we approved it. This calendar complies with all the North Carolina General Statute calendar laws where we start school. We start school on August 24th and end on June 4th. And it's very similar to the calendar this year where we have the 2-week holiday break and then come back and have exams after the Christmas break. So we asked you to consider approving this calendar.
Any questions or comments?
Now that, work early release day in February, that's kind of taking up slack for not having President's Day off as a holiday, since that's a federal holiday.
I'm not, when is President's Day? Is that on the 15th?
It's on the 15th, yes, and we're saying early release on the 17th.
That's when this was vetted by principals and that they felt that early release days, particularly for staff development, was more beneficial to have middle of the week than say on a Friday or on especially a Friday before a holiday. So it's more for staff development.
And I think we all recognize the significance of trying to have exams before the holidays, but until the state gives us more leniency on the calendar law, we don't want to push our teachers into teaching what they've been teaching in 90 days in 75. So until we get a little bit more flexibility, it is something that we're interested in, but it's just not something that we're able to do now. So, any other?
But we do want calendar flexibility.
Oh yeah.
You want to talk about that, minutes and hours?
No.
Any other comments, questions? We need a motion to approve the calendars presented.
Chair, I need to approve the 2021 school calendar.
Brittany made the motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Melissa, second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Thank you. Mr. Paylor, will you keep going with facilities update?
Yes, so the only capital project we have still going on is West Carteret painting, and they worked on that over the holiday break and got a lot of the interior work knocked out, and we're like about 95% complete with just some of the outbuildings and concession stands left, so that's all I have to report.
Good.
Where we at with those school boards and stuff, middle school and benches and things for football fields?
I'm not sure.
Broad Creek and places that really need help for fans to come sit down when they go watch the game or have a stand, nowhere to sit.
That wasn't on the capital budget for this year, though.
They're still in the capital request budget.
Yeah, but
Something coming years.
That's
We've
what,
got those workshops coming up.
make sure that it's still being looked at, not being thrown out the window or nothing.
No, it's still on the books. It just wasn't funded for this particular year.
Go right into comments, or was that it?
No, I was going to say.
Please, yeah.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, please.
I was just going to say Happy New Year, and I hope everyone had a restful break, and welcome back. high schools will be taking exams next week, so I wanted to wish them luck, and I know we'll do well as usual. I wanted to thank Ms. Landry for her presentation. Again, you see we have a lot to be proud of and thankful for in Carteret County, and I'm proud to be part of the school system.
Absolutely. Good, thank you. You up for going first again?
Oh, yeah.
I probably will reverse it next time.
Happy New Year, everyone. I also wanted to thank Ms. Landry for her presentation. Those numbers speak volumes about our school system. You said it was a short presentation, but it says everything you need to say in those 5 or 6 slides. I'd also like to thank, once again, Ms. Carswell. She has really had to do some major, I don't want to say manipulation this year, but she just keeps having to drag it out and drag it out. And she's done a phenomenal job, and we never have to second guess anything. I also don't want to go without thanking Mr. Taylor and Mr. Probst for stepping up halfway through the school year. This is something that neither one of them expected to have to do, and when we called on them, it was very last minute, and neither one of them batted an eye, and not only professionally, it's taking on a lot and putting a lot on their plate. They're taking the job of 3 people down to 2, and they're splitting those duties. But even when we called in, I remember Mr. Probst said, I'll do whatever it takes. We'll do whatever it takes to make sure that the school system moves forward. And I know that not only you two, but there are a lot of others who are wearing multiple hats, and they don't get the recognition, but I feel very confident in our superintendent search, and I'm very, very confident in everyone that works for the school system, and I'm very proud of everyone. And I just want to say thank you guys.
I want to wish everyone a happy, good new year, and hope that 2020 is going to be a great year like the other previous years have been. Also want to thank the 2 interim superintendents for stepping up, sharing duties. We need cooperation, and I think between the 2 of them, that's going to work well until we hire a new superintendent. Ms. Cardwell, again, great work working on the budget. We just hope that the legislature is going to come through and get that budget done as soon as possible. And wish all the schools next week, on the high school especially, with the end of course exams that they've got to take and study for. That's something that a lot of students, they want to get those done as soon as possible and get ready to get started on their new semester. So that for that, sports is going on pretty heavy. I know West Carteret did really well over the Christmas tournaments and all over the weekend, the break, and so all the sports are on schedule to be good this year, and wish everyone well for the new year, and look forward to working with everybody and finding a new superintendent.
Perfect. Thank you, Jake. I've got a lot to say, but I'm not going to say it all tonight because it would take a long time, a real long time. I've had the opportunity over the past 3 weeks to go to quite a few of our schools. Before I dive into that, I want us all, when we see representatives of the Big Rock, let's give them a big thanks, because every school I go to, I see things like greenhouses, I see concession stands, I see playground equipment, and I've seen at my daughter's school a brand new court for Moorhead Middle School. They really step up our community, and if you're looking on this TV, Big Rock people, thank you. But taking that a step further, our parents who either come here as the PAC chairs, or the parents who help raise money to match the Big Rock donations, is absolutely fantastic. A quick story. My wife is from Edgecombe County, and I go to Edgecombe County over Christmas, and they're telling me that they don't have any support from parents, they don't have support from community, and it just blows me away. I think maybe sometimes we take for granted what we got here, and I would like you to just keep in mind that y'all are awesome. Y'all are the ones that, you know, there's some parents out here, there's some principals I've met with. So thank y'all so much for that. Going a step further, the administrators I've met with, Bubba and I have met with, I've told, as we went through this process, we left every meeting, we were either crying with joy, we were high-fiving each other, we were giving chest bumps. We were so fired up. I mean, this is, seriously, this is probably one of the best experiences I've ever had, was meeting with every single one of y'all. You know, I sit up here and I talk about the experiences my kids have had in the school system, but all of our kids are having these experiences because of all of y'all. And that is priceless. That is absolutely priceless. And it is our duty to support y'all. And we will, I promise you, we will support you through thick and thin. So thank y'all so much.
Okay. Well, I just hate going after Clark. Oh, Clark, I had to give you that. I appreciate that. No, I want to say that everyone knows that we're up here as elected officials. And the two things that we're charged with, and main duties, are coming up and approving board policy. But most paramount probably is our duty to hire the leader of our school district, our only employee. So I want you to know how serious I know all of us will be taking our role in this process. Again, I've expressed to you the confidence that I have in the integrity of the system with the State Board Association assisting us. It is a very vital investment to the process. But I also want to extend an invitation, and it may fill up my inbox, but I'm talking about not just the administrators, but if community members, Samuel, students, and parents, if you want to reach out to me and let me know your thoughts on the next superintendent, I'll do my best to entertain those, because I think that if we have everyone talking to us and being involved, because that's what we're doing, we're representing you, I think it really provides, number one, support to us, and two, it leads to a more favorable public perception, and most importantly, I think it builds trust for what we need most of all as we go forward in 2020. That's all I have to say.
So I'm going to follow up, echoing a lot of what everybody up here has said. And I feel the same way. If anybody wants to email me with any thoughts or concerns of the new superintendent, I'll be glad to read all of them, and we're going to do our best to find a perfect match. And we've got great schools, and thanks to all of you for making our schools great and doing what's best for our children. So, thank you.
And I'm not going to repeat everything. I did have a picture of Clark climbing through a piece of playground equipment I was going to try to pull up, but I can't find it right now.
You have a picture of Yasha something?
I do, actually. So it has been overwhelming. We all know what great schools we have, but when you go out and sit down with the people that are on the front lines and that are teaching these children every single day, it is overwhelming. And it is a testament to what you do. And Allison, your presentation hit on it perfectly. So what you do makes a difference every single day, and I cannot thank you enough, and I know everybody up here feels the same. Richie and Blair, I can't thank you enough. That it stuck in my mind too, what Brittany said about we'll do whatever it takes. We didn't want to be in this position, but we are, and we are going to come out of it stronger, and but we really appreciate what you're doing. And all the principals out here, thank you for what you do every single day. It's almost 8 o'clock, and I'm sure your day started a long time ago, so thank you for what you do. Next meeting is February 4th. It's 6 o'clock, I believe. And we do have a closed session, so if we could have a motion based on...
Mr. Chairman, in addition to the confidential personnel matter, there's a brief student matter too, which is, under the statute, it's 143-318-11A1. So just a motion to convene a closed session for purposes of personnel matter and student matter.
Okay, now we're only showing the confidential personnel, is it new?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Is there a motion based on Mr. Whitford's recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion as, Mr. Whitford, presented to us.
Melissa's recommendation, is there a second? Or
I'll second that.
Clark with a second, all those in favor? All right, we're in closed session. Thank you.